Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to Desert Bob's Leather and Loot. I'm Desert Bob, wishing you happy holidays. On this clip, we're going to go over a coin holder that we've kind of dreamt up for another channel's giveaways. I think it turned out pretty good. It's a small project for big old meaty paws, but hey, if it's hard to do, it means it's probably good to do. And I think it turned out well. There's always some flaws along the way. You'll catch a couple of those in the clip, but hey, you live and you learn. So the next project I got lined out is going to be a belt. Get some basket weave, some tooling in that, so you'll get to see that go down. And I learned how to do voiceovers, so you get to hear my voice for this entire video. Lucky you, I know. I'll figure out how to do some background music, make it a little more pleasant in the future. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the clip. Let's get to it. So here's the finished product and what we're trying to achieve. Fancy little coin holder. Oh yeah. Let's see how it's done. So I had a big sheet here because we're mass producing, and I used the hole punch that was conveniently the right size to score out my outline. And I lay my nickel where I think the middle is, and I draw myself a little tracer line. This makes sure it's centered, but it also gives me the chance to adjust when I'm punching that center hole, which we're now doing. You wiggle it around and find that perfect spot. Sometimes it can be a little hard to do, but I found it was easier to take the center out before you did the outside. Now with the inside cut, we're going to follow it up with the X-Acto knife and just kind of clean that edge up a bit. My inside punch was a little bit small, so I had to try to make it larger, and you try to do that all the way around and keep it uniform to keep your coin centered. Lots of testing, little scrapes. Got to do it for each one, and you try to keep that blade nice and straight so it holds it tight and it doesn't get all wonky when you push it in there. Admittedly, it took longer than I wanted it to, but got to make it right. After I'm satisfied with that, I start edging the inside just to kind of take that bevel off. Thought it helped the coin fit in a little bit better. Then you clean up the backside, lay the knife sideways, cut off all those little annoying fuzzies, because, well, we can't have that. Now we glue. So this is a wire brush, rough up the sides, or the back side, the flesh side. That way the glue holds better. Got to be careful when you're going around these holes, because if that glue gets on the front side, well, then your die won't take, and that's just not the thing you can have. And I did a little bit. Now we go back around. I did this first because it took longer, and this glue, you just want it to be tacky when they connect, so that gives it just about enough time. Let her dry for a minute. Tacky to the touch. All right. Set her tight, and then you roll it out. Want to get it nice and tight. Now we're on to the outside ring. The first one I messed up, punch jumped on me, so you start holding it a little bit tighter after that. But the edges come out nice and straight. Pretty happy with that. After tinkering with it, I found that it was easier to cut it if you cut the piece out of the big sheet of leather. It tends to push out when you're trying to run that big old punch through it. And when there's no leather on the outside, it will squish easier. So here's that. Get that outside punch. Make sure you keep a clean workspace. That's imperative. Lots of tapping. But there you go. Now you scribe a line around the outside so you know where you're going to punch your holes at. That little gauge I got will keep you nice and straight off the outside edge, keep it even. Then I take my 4-prong punch and just lightly tap around that line so it gets my spacing. Then I go back with the single punch and punch all those holes. And I probably knew at one point how many holes are in it, but that seems like useless information and my brain doesn't hang on to it, so just do it till the job's done. And then you just take some sandpaper, clean up that outside edge a little bit, even it out because there are 2 pieces of leather there, and then cut off any weird levels. And then we do the final fit. After you put everything together, stuff tends to move a little. And I found that my holes had all shrunk. So I have to clean it all out and then use the little persuader there to seat it nice and well. Now we're on to stamping, and you I had little blanks that I put in the coin holes so then I don't mess the leather up. Tap it in, and I'd leave the stamp for the next one so they line up all nice. There's your PV. Beautiful. But you got to pay attention, because when you don't, you've already put in quite a bit of hours into this thing, and then when you do what I'm just about to do, kind of disappoint you. Got my P, didn't check it, did that B backwards, to the trash. Now we edge the outside. Nobody likes square edge leather. This will make it nice and smooth. Well, smooth enough. To the dye table. Polly wanted these in multiple colors, so I got to play around with different stains. Start off with black. But once again, the fallible human that I am, I did not do it quite right. Here you'll see that I did black and then I pulled out and did a separate container for dark brown. But I used the same brush, so they were kind of blacker than they should be. I realized this partway through and tried to wipe it off to combat it, and by the last one they were brown, but just one of them things. Gives it a cool fade effect, I guess. I think we call that happy little accidents, right? The stitch I used on these was a saddle stitch. It's a pretty stout stitch that if it happens to break, it won't unravel. Sad thing is you got to do it by hand. Burn your edges, clean it up, and we tap the threads to pretty them up and flatten them out. So the saddle stitch, this is a close-up view for those who might want to know. It's a very stable stitch. That's my favorite. I use it on a lot of things. So you go through the front. I like to do it the same way every time for consistency. Otherwise you get kind of uneven, wonky stitching, and well, that's just amateur. We don't need that. And you go back the other way through the same hole. Pull it tight. And you're off to the races. Here again, through the front each time. And I do a little trick where you'll see that I hold the string back with my other fingers so that way I don't stab through the thread when I'm going the other way with my other needle. Now back to edge work. So I wet the edge, that's just regular old water, a little brown from other leather, and then you rub it with a wooden stick, nothing special except the shape about it. And this burnishes it down, flattens everything out, and gives it a nice smooth appearance. There's a little before and after. Ain't she a beauty? Now we're on to edge coat. This is a little thicker than the stain that we put on it, and it seals up that edge real nice, which is going to be the most prone to sucking up moisture and getting rough and rude. Also, if you were to carry this in your pocket, that's the area that's going to take the biggest beating. I'm just using a little piece of stick instead of a brush. Now clear coat. This makes it nice and shiny. Put her on, let it dry, and then you buff her out. Woo, sparkles. Now that we've got a mess of them made, one last try to make sure they all fit. Ta-da! Well, there it is. And if you're still here, I appreciate you watching to the end. I hope you learned something. Hopefully you can recreate it if you have the mind to do it. Other than that, I wish you all the best. Please like and subscribe, and have a beautiful day.